Welcome back. Tonight I have 3 scary stories for you. Stories you won't soon forget. Lock your doors, turn off the lights, and listen carefully. My name is Jake, and I was 19 years old when I started working the night shift at a local fast food joint. Little did I know that one incident would change my perception of the world around me forever. It was a quiet Thursday night. The clock struck 11 p.m. when I noticed something strange. I was working the fryer when my manager, a seemingly normal guy named Rob, decided to check the stock in the back. I had always found Rob's enthusiasm about the job a bit off-putting, but that night it felt different. He had a weird glint in his eye, something unsettling. As I was tossing fries into the fryer, I heard muffled whispers coming from the back room. It sounded like Rob was arguing with someone, but I couldn't make out the words. Curiosity got the better of me, so I decided to sneak a peek. I crept down the hallway, my heart racing as the whispers turned into urgent pleading. Peeking through the door, I saw Rob standing next to a very pale man with dark circles under his eyes. They were deep in conversation, and I could only catch the snippets. "Just one more night, and it'll all be over," Rob said, his face now twisted in a bizarre smile. Suddenly, the air around me chilled, and I felt an overwhelming urge to run. I dashed back to the kitchen, breathless, and tried to shake off the feeling of dread creeping up my spine. Just as I began to feel normal again, the lights flickered. I glanced towards the back, and my heart dropped when I saw Rob emerging from the darkness, alone. He looked different. His smile had vanished, replaced by a blank stare. The customers had started to arrive from the late-night crowd, but the odd vibes continued. Just as I began to serve the next customer, I noticed the pale man standing right behind Rob, his eyes fixed on me. Panicking, I dropped a burger, and when I looked up again, the man was gone. Things got weird. For the next few days, I started noticing the employees acting strangely. They looked sick and tired, as if they hadn't slept in days. One night, I finally confronted Rob about what I saw. He just laughed it off, but I couldn't shake my uneasiness. A week later, a group of customers slammed the door, looking frantic. "Have you seen that man?" they shouted, describing the exact figure I'd seen. That's when I learned the truth. A series of strange disappearances had plagued our town, all linked to individuals last seen at our fast food restaurant. Turns out, Rob wasn't just the manager. He was part of a dark ritual involving the very pale man I had seen. They were luring people in to complete some sinister task that I had unwittingly stumbled upon. The customers? They weren't leaving. They were becoming part of a horrifying secret. From that day on, 19-year-old me learned one thing. Never underestimate the eerie happenings behind those fast food counters. My name is Sarah, and I was 20 when I had one of the most terrifying experiences while working the graveyard shift at a popular fast food restaurant. Every night was pretty much the same until that one stormy Friday. Rain lashed against the windows, and the lights flickered ominously as I took our last order of the night from the drive-thru. The customer sounded oddly distorted, their voice crackling over the intercom, sending chills down my spine. Something is wrong with the system, I thought, as I repeated their order twice, only for them to respond with an eerie chuckle. When I handed the food out, the car that pulled up was empty. There was no driver or passengers inside. My heart raced, but I reassured myself that it was possibly a prank. I went back inside, trying to shake off the unease. Minutes went by, and I got busy cleaning up the kitchen. Suddenly, the intercom buzzed back to life and the same distorted voice echoed through the night. "What will you do for your next meal, Sarah?" I froze. How did they know my name? Instinct kicked in and I rushed to the front, but the drive-thru was deserted again. As I stood there, a cold wind swept through the restaurant. I looked out through the rain-soaked windows and noticed a shadowy figure standing in the parking lot. I squinted, and the figure seemed to be beckoning me closer. Against my better judgment, I stepped outside. The figure moved into the shadows, leading me around the corner of the building. When I followed, my heart raced with fear. As I turned the corner, I saw it was a girl, pale and ghostly, standing no more than a few feet away. "We're hungry. Help us," she whispered. In that moment, I realized there had been a series of unfortunate accidents near that fast food restaurant. She was part of a haunting from an old car crash that had left her trapped between worlds. Panicking, I ran back inside, locking the door behind me. But she was still there, her voice reverberating through the air, asking for help. I decided to call my manager and explained what happened. When he arrived, he laughed it off as my imagination. But then the power cut off, leaving us in darkness. The intercom buzzed to life again. "Sarah, I'm hungry." With trembling hands, I switched the generator back on. The lights flickered, and I realized that the ghost wanted to take revenge on those who had caused her demise. Every order we made that night was cursed, resulting in grisly accidents reported all around town. I left that place never to return, knowing that sometimes what seems like a harmless job can lead to unfathomable horrors linked to the past. My name is Marco, and I was just 18 when I stumbled upon a secret that would change my night shift forever. It was another mundane Wednesday night. I was in charge of closing, and my last task was to organize the freezer. While on the job, I noticed a strange noise coming from deep within the appliance. It was a soft thudding, almost muffled, as if something or someone was trapped inside. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to investigate further. Pushing the frozen fries aside, I cleared a path, finally reaching the back of the freezer. When I pulled the door open, I was greeted by an overwhelming stench that made my stomach churn. Among the frost-covered shelves, I found a tattered old jacket hanging limply from a hook. I inspected it closely. There was a name tag, Bernard. The memories rushed back like flashes of a nightmare. Bernard was a worker who had mysteriously disappeared a month ago, leaving the staff baffled as to his whereabouts. Just then, a rush of cold air swept over me, and I felt an unnatural presence. The lights flickered again. In the corner of my eye, I could see the shadows formed by the hanging jackets moving unnaturally despite the absence of wind. I felt an urge to run, but my feet wouldn't budge as fear gripped me. Suddenly, I heard it. A low voice coming from the jacket itself. "Help! Me!" It echoed, a mournful plea that struck directly at my heart. I backed away slowly, but the darkness seemed to close in around me. I stumbled over some boxes and fell to the ground. As I looked up, the jacket was no longer hanging but had floated to the ground, revealing an icy blue light. Out of the blue light emerged the ghostly figure of Bernard, his face twisted in a grimace of anguish. "They left me. Here. For too long," he whispered. It felt like I was living a horror movie. In that moment, I glanced around, and the walls of the freezer seemed to be closing in on me. With a surge of adrenaline, I crawled back quickly and knocked over a few items in my attempt to pull myself out of the freezer. In that fleeting moment, however, I caught a glimpse of the wall behind Bernard, the outline of another door that had been hidden, possibly leading away from this dark past. As I fled, I knocked over the freezer door, escaping the icy grasp of the unknown. I ran to the manager where I shared what happened. Instead of help, I received disbelief. "You're imagining things, Marco," he said, dismissing me as if I were nothing more than a prankster. But later that night, when I returned to close up, I noticed that the jacket was gone. I knew that my experience was real and that the lost souls of the night shift rested uneasily behind the walls of that restaurant. I quit the next day, understanding that sometimes night shifts come with secrets better left buried. After all, a slow night may lead to unraveling the darkest corners of a quaint little fast food joint. If you enjoyed these true scary stories, consider subscribing for more real horror experiences, and don't forget to stay alert, because the next story might just happen to you.